Welcome to this astrology report for Monday, April 21st through Thursday, April 24th. This week we have a powerful T-square being activated, and it's involving the Sun, Mars, and Pluto. So I called this week productivity versus tension because there are ways that we can use this energy, which is sort of tense by nature, but there's ways that we can harness it for productivity and for maximum benefit. There's really a lot of positive potential right now, as much as there can be a bit of tension. It's hard to sort of give a big overview. I'll define it more specifically as we go here. That's mainly what I will be discussing today. This Mars, Pluto, Sun T-square. But there are some other important things happening astrologically as well, and it's important to factor those in as well. Actually, the rarest of the transits that's happening right now is the Saturn North Node conjunction, and I'll discuss that after. This will sort of feel the most obvious, but this Saturn North Node conjunction is really, really rare and worth discussing as well, for sure. I'll talk about that more at the end. And I also think sort of the key to unlocking the positive potential of this T-square is found in Neptune, newly in Aries. So I'll discuss that too as we go. Okay. So first, I just want to talk about sort of dates and timings around this in general. Basically, this is a chart from this morning, from Monday, April 21st. Pluto and Mars are, once Mars moved into Leo a couple of days ago, this Mars-Pluto T-square became active. And it will be active throughout the rest of the month. So that relates to this building tension. It's interesting timing around this opposition, this Mars-Pluto opposition. It began in November of 24 in other signs. Then we had another conjunction in January, and we're having the final one now. So this Mars-Pluto opposition won't be exact until this coming weekend on the 26th. The Sun is really in the mix this week, though. Yesterday on the 20th, the Sun was exactly square to Mars. And you can see that that's still incredibly active right now. As I'm recording this video, the Sun is very much in that conjunction with Mars. And then on the 23rd, on Wednesday, we will have the Sun-Pluto opposition will be exact on that day. And again, on the 26th, that's Mars-Pluto. But the Mars-Pluto opposition is active through the rest of April. The Sun is really this week. Okay, enough of sort of the particulars of this astrology. I always want to jump right into how this feels and what the significations are around this. So these are very different energies. Let's just talk about Mars and the Sun first. Okay, let's just talk about this aspect of it. I'm actually going to change my little visual here because I just want to keep the focus as clear as possible. And, you know, just to say, this is relevant for all signs. It doesn't matter what sign you are. It doesn't matter where the Sun is in your chart. It doesn't matter where Mars is in your chart. It doesn't matter if you know your chart. This is the current astrology, so it's relevant to everyone. Okay, so this Mars-Sun square is active throughout the week. We will build on this. I will be explaining more as we go, but this is sort of a fundamental piece. So the Mars in Leo and the Sun in Taurus are very different energies. But if we can sort of harmonize them and have them work together, find a way to bring both together, it can be incredibly productive. Or it could feel like sort of a tension within. Okay, so first let's talk about Mars and Leo. There may be a side of us right now, this week, that's feeling this. Mars and Leo is incredibly bold and creative. Um, it can be dramatic and passionate and proud. Mars and Leo doesn't mind being seen, mind being given a little bit of credit. It can be very persistent, but in sort of it's more about the drive. It's more about the drive. It can be very driven. So let's go with driven. So Mars and Leo, driven, proud, passionate, dramatic, creative, bold. Mars and Leo doesn't mind taking center stage, doing something bold and different, and having other people see and notice it. Okay? Then we have this Sun in Taurus energy, which we also may be feeling within this week. Sun in Taurus is a very different energy. It's quite grounded, very reliable, very steady. Taurus is perhaps the most reliable sign of the zodiac. Sun in Taurus is persistent. Can do a little bit at the time, just keep going. Very grounded, harmonious, peaceful. And this is sort of extra true right now because the ruling planet of Taurus is Venus, and Venus is in Pisces where it's exalted. So this Taurus energy is just kind of luscious right now. There's a part of us that's super stable, grounded, enjoying life, persistent, driven, steady. And then there's this other Mars and Leo side that is sort of dramatic and passionate and ready to be recognized. So there's a couple different ways this can show up. Yes, it can show up as different sides of you, right? Maybe there's part of you that is feeling just so ready to get a new project off the ground, so excited about it. But then there's another part of you that's like, no, that's not practical. I need to just stay the course with what I'm already doing, right? For example. And this can manifest in so many different ways. Sometimes I hate to give examples because, it can manifest in so many different ways that can be a little bit misleading. But you can feel these two different sides within yourself sometimes. You can feel that pull between them with these kinds of aspects active. You might find yourself oscillating between the two. Sometimes feeling that Mars and Leo energy, feeling very driven, very passionate, very excited, not afraid to be bold and different and unique, not shying away from recognition or center stage. And then other moments you might feel that Sun in Taurus, where you just kind of want to put your head down and be quiet and feel good and grounded and get things done a little at a time. Sun in Taurus loves to garden, loves to cook, loves to clean, make things more beautiful, do anything involving the earth, getting your hands actually in the ground with gardening. Would be a wonderful way to support this Sun in Taurus, right? So there's a big difference between going out into the world and taking center stage and getting recognition and being home gardening. But you may feel a little bit of both of those tensions at the same time within yourself this week. Another way that this can sometimes show up is it can be sort of personified, and you can find that you're being one of these planets, you're sort of being Mars and Leo, and someone else is showing up as the Sun in Taurus. This is actually really common. And I'm not sure we think about this as much. I don't hear it talked about as much, but I think it's really very common and important to know about these kinds of squares, that sometimes it gets personified very literally and it's a person. So For example, you might be feeling that passionate Mars and Leo energy. Just be feeling ready and confident and strong and eager to move forward, bold and different and unique, maybe a little dramatic, maybe a little extra passionate. And then someone else can show up as that no, 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 steady Taurus energy. Let's not do anything too flashy. Let's just stay the course. Let's get a little done at a time, you know? So this can also be something that is personified, where you find yourself playing one of the roles and you find someone else playing another. If we can find a way to reconcile the two, and I think that we can. I partially think Neptune and Aries is the answer. I will get to that. We're sort of building as we go here. But if you can find a way to do both, that is really the answer. And you might not be able to do both at the same time. You may need to oscillate between these two modes or find a way to do both at the same time. But that's one trick out of this, where you're going to be busy, you're going to be productive, you're going to be getting a lot done and really moving forward, but it will help to mitigate that tension. You know, one thing that I've learned about astrology that is pretty foundational, regardless of what we're talking about, what transits we're talking about, whether we're talking about a birth chart or looking at the current astrology by a transit, is that all the planets just want to be heard. So if we can somehow honor all of the planets, that does a lot to mitigate any tension that might be happening between them. The reason that the Sun in Taurus and Mars in Leo is a tense aspect is because it's sort of hard for them both to be heard at the same time. It's not that there's anything wrong or negative about either of those signatures. It's just that doing them both at the same time is hard because they're sort of different energies. They're opposed energies. They're square energies, I guess I should say. So anyway, this Mars square, the Sun was exact yesterday. It is active throughout the week. It will be letting up as we move into the weekend, and we'll be shifting more and more into the Mars-Pluto square energy at that time. But first, we get a Sun square Pluto transit on the 23rd on Wednesday. So let me add that to our mix here and talk a little bit about that. Same principle applies. All right. And I'm just going to put the opposition in here as well, because even though it's not exact until the weekend, we're feeling this opposition all week as well. All of these planets just want to be heard. So we just talked quite a bit about Mars in Leo, and we talked about the Sun in Taurus. Thank you so much for adding your questions. I'm definitely going to get to them at the end. Welcome. I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for being here. So we just talked about these two and how to find ways to express both of them and how that can help us to have a productive week instead of a tense week. But we also have to put in Pluto, because as we shift through the week, the focus is going to sort of move to include this Pluto more and more. But it's already active. Let's face it, we're trying to resolve all three of these energies this week. So the Pluto in Aquarius energy is adding a third flavor to the mix. And Pluto in Aquarius has sort of a revolutionary energy. It's very new and very different. It's innovative. It's future thinking. It relates to radical change and progress. It can relate to awakening. It can almost be sort of emotionally detached, but through that detachment, sort of thinking about the collective. You know, Pluto in Aquarius is such a new energy, and it's so different to all of us that it can be a little challenging still, because it's so new, to tap into the resonance of this. I think what's really showing up for a lot of us, from what I've noticed, is that brand new energy. Something in your life that's brand new, that you've never done before. Now, when I say brand new, You could have started it within the last year and a half, even, because Pluto has been moving into Aquarius for a while. It's just that it's such a long transit. We're really still at the beginning. But there's something in your life that is very much of the new era that we're moving into. It's not of the past, it's of the new era. It's revolutionary, it's future, it's innovative, it's radical change. It could relate to technology in some kind of way. There's a different way of being emotionally. It's not so, they say that sort of this Aquarius energy, it can be sort of caring, very, very caring about people, like as a concept, but individually, person to person, it can be a bit detached. A couple historic figures, not even historic figures, living people who have a lot of Aquarius that I always think of with this are President Obama and Oprah. There is sort of a way in which they care so deeply about people, but there's also sort of like an emotional detachment. Do you know what I mean? And that's a very Aquarius energy. Um, it's sort of here, but always thinking so far ahead that there's a part of us that is thinking so far ahead that it's almost hard to grab onto in the current reality. It's almost hard to connect in the current reality because this part of us is so going into the future. So, Pluto in Aquarius is also very deep. It's very transformative. It's a very deep bass note. Mars changes and moves all the time. The sun changes and moves all the time. Pluto's deeper, you know? It doesn't move through the chart quite as quickly. So this might not be as obvious, but there's some tension between that and this Mars in Leo. And Mars has been through a lot lately. Mars went through a retrograde in Leo and in Cancer, and just now is back in Leo, different, changed. And part of what changed Mars was what was happening with Pluto. Pluto was newly in Aquarius with all this new, fresh, exciting energy, showing Mars a different way of being. Pluto was at the end of Capricorn, letting go of these old, outdated ways of being, showing Mars how to do that. So now, how can Mars be sort of infused with, how can this part of us, the Mars side of us, our drive, our actions, be a little more infused naturally with this Pluto energy? Do they have to be fighting each other? Or can we sort of integrate a little bit all of these signatures at the same time? Allow all of these planets to be heard. Have a part of us that is stable and steady and reliable, and Taurus, Sun in Taurus, staying the course, being reliable, being stable, being grounded and strong and persistent. And can there be a part of us that's bold and dramatic and proud and passionate? And at the same time, can we also hold space for awakening, for revolutionary new ways of doing things, radical change and innovation? Maybe a bit of emotional detachment, different way of working with our emotions than we have before. How can we somehow put all three of these things together? The astrology suggests that that's part of what's going on this week. There is more that I want to say. This isn't all, but the big idea here at this point, I have sort of laid out in terms of the way in which having these different sides of us fighting each other can cause tension. Having them work together can cause a productive forward movement into down this new path, you know? So there is great potential this week. And I think people get real scared of the Mars Pluto opposition. And I understand that. But I think it can also be a lot in the collective. I think depending on where it's falling in your chart, this is not going to be a big, terrible thing here. It doesn't have to be, you know? There are definitely ways to work with this energy where it doesn't feel so overwhelming. And I'm putting together a few other things here that I think are really important in terms of how to do that. Because Mars and Pluto can be sort of tense planets, and I understand why folks might be a little concerned about this, but I don't know. I think it's okay. I think we're just moving into the future. I think things are different and changing, and that can feel scary. Of course, that's only natural, but um, you know, it can be sort of draining as we do things differently, but that doesn't necessarily mean negative. But do allow some time just to rest, because doing things differently is sort of draining, isn't it? Okay. Two other things do really, really need to be put into this equation. The first is the Sun North Node conjunction in Pisces. This is actually quite rare. It's way more rare than Mars opposed Pluto. The reason that this Mars opposed Pluto is so significant is that we've got the T-square coming in with it, and we also have Pluto newly in Aquarius, and Mars just came out of a retrograde. So it's not your typical Mars opposed Pluto, which really happens, what, like every couple of years, every 18 months to 2 years. This Sun North Node conjunction happens every 18 or 19 years. It's the rarest conjunction that we have going on right now, the rarest uh, aspect, transit. So it's really important to pay attention to, and it's active for quite a while, so we can sort of lose track of it. This North Node here in Pisces with all the things, but very important. And this suggests that there's something here about the importance of being responsible, being disciplined, being structured. There's something about everything that's happening right now that is fated. The timing is just perfect. It's like divine timing. It couldn't happen. Whatever's going on right now couldn't have happened at any other time. It was supposed to happen now. Wasn't supposed to be earlier or later. Everything is coming together right now. The timing of this just perfectly. There's real emotional maturity here. We're being asked to be emotionally mature. And you probably can find ways in which you have matured emotionally in recent weeks or months, and you're being asked to show up as that new, more emotionally mature self. It's sort of like dreams can be made real right now. The North Node is about our fate, our path, our future, what's meant for us. And Saturn provides the practical structure for how to do that. So it can feel like sort of, dreams landing in our reality. It can feel like a perfect alignment of timing, and I wonder if that's part of what all these different aspects all at once are talking about. Somehow we're supposed to reconcile all of this because the timing right now is just right, especially if we bring responsibility, structure, discipline, and emotional maturity to the mix. Okay, but I do have to add one more thing in here that can help us also. And I have to make this a little bit smaller because, well, maybe I'll just lose it. But don't forget about that. Don't forget about that part. I want to use a different color. Don't forget about that North Node Saturn piece, really reminding us that the things that are happening right now are happening at just the right time as we get into this Neptune and Aries. Okay, Neptune and Aries. Neptune newly in Aries might just be the answer to helping us with this. Neptune recently moved into Aries, a very important part of the sky. Neptune's at 0 degrees of Aries, the very, very beginning of the zodiac, the first degree of the zodiac. It hasn't been here for 165 years. So it takes Neptune 165, I believe, 160, 165 years to go all the way around the zodiac. So being back here, this fresh start at 0 degrees of Aries right now is really unique. It's really exciting. And it's forming a trine when Mars moved into this position at these early degrees, 1 degree, 3 degree, 1 degree. When Mars moved here into this first degree, it also came into alignment. He also came into alignment with this Neptune up at 0 degrees. And I think Neptune in Aries is part of the answer here. Neptune in Aries is all about inspired action. It gives us some real courage. It gives us sort of like an idealism. We can be quite idealistic at this time, quite driven, almost like in a mystical way. I've heard the phrase spiritual warrior used to describe Neptune in Aries, and I don't know, that's sort of heavy and can come with different connotations, but I think if we take that in for our own self, it can feel like whatever it is you're going after, whatever it is you're working on, where is it coming from? Like, it's not just that you want it, it's that you feel like it's like your purpose. You really feel like almost like spiritually or mystically driven to do this thing. It can almost help you, like, whatever it is, whatever this this inspired action is, whatever this new drive is, this courageous thing, it can like encourage you to sort of transcend your regular identity, right? It brings you out into the world. You care about it so much, whether it's a relationship, a project, a calling. I don't know what it is, different things for different people. And we're just starting to get a sense of this with Neptune newly in Aries. Whatever it is, it can almost help you to like transcend your own identity because you care so much that you kind of lose. It's not that you lose yourself, it's that you get even bigger. You expand into the other because you're so connected to it, you know? So, where in our life, where in your life, do you feel that kind of certainty, that kind of drive and enthusiasm and courage to move something forward, to work for something, to keep going, to do the work that is required to be responsible and proud and unique and revolutionary? What's the purpose? You know, why are you doing it? So putting this all together is a lot. It's hard to sort of sum up in a couple sentences here at the end, but I think that taking this all into account could be helpful this week, remembering that all planets just want to be heard. I should also mention that April horoscopes talk about the Mars-Pluto opposition, and my May horoscopes that I'm working on now talk about this Neptune in Aries quite a bit in a couple different ways. Conjunct Venus, conjunct Saturn, coming up in May. So be sure to check out the horoscopes on my channel, as well as some other videos that I'll attach here that are about the current relevant astrology. If you enjoyed this video, you might enjoy those as well. And check out my horoscopes by rising sign to see where these things are falling in your chart. That might also provide a little bit more insight. But enjoy this week. Astrology is meant to give us some interesting insight, not to scare us. And sometimes when Mars and Pluto are in the mix, I hear a lot of negative astrology or just, you know, I understand seeing that tension, but there is ways to move through it so that we can use it to be productive and move forward into this new exciting time that we're just beginning to sort of get our legs under us within. So let me just check out my questions here. Hi, and definitely Identity 242, please check out the horoscopes by rising sign if possible on my channel. But I mean, one thing I can say to you right away is that you're working on letting go of perfectionism these days, not being quite as hard on yourself. This is because the South Node is in Virgo. Not needing to overplan, overdo, overthink, overschedule quite as much. Thank you, Mario, for being here. Hello. Thank you everyone for being here. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, check out some other videos on my channel, and just thank you so much for being here. Have a great week.